Welcome to the Holy Smokes Podcast, a show about faith, friendship, fine tobacco, and drink. I'm Steve Reiter, and I am in Franklin, Tennessee with Uli. What's your last name?
Reyes.
Yes. Uli Reyes. And right before we started recording, you said your full name.
Ulises Ruiznaldo Reyes Escobar Martinez Lopez González de la Vega. But you can call me Uli.
Uli.
Yeah, it's for short.
So, you're Cuban. Were you born in Cuba?
No, I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. My mom was Venezuela. She was born in Venezuela.
Two of my editors, my project manager and one of my editors from Caracas.
Really?
Yeah. One of them used the money, my project manager used the money that I was paying him to get the heck out of Dodge. And he's now in northern Spain where his wife's family was originally from. They fled Spain in the 70s for prosperous Venezuela.
Yeah.
And now it's turned into an absolute shit show.
Yeah. It's sad.
Yeah, unbelievably sad. Because, I mean, the pictures that I've seen of it, it's just gorgeous country.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Growing up, you wouldn't meet anybody from Venezuela because nobody would leave Venezuela. You know, you find all these, nobody would leave Venezuela. Why would we leave Venezuela? And so I grew up not knowing any Venezuelans. It was kind of crazy. And then, until the crap hit the fan and with the government. And,
yeah.
Unfortunate. Now they're all over the place.
So you were born in Venezuela. At what point did you... were you not there for very long?
I was there till I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Two and a half. And my dad was Cuban. And so he's got a story. I'm going to have to start with him because he was a circus performer.
What?
He was a circus performer.
What? And doing what with the circus?
He, in the circus, you do multiple things, but his main thing was a single trap, it's called. It's a single trapeze, and they swing, and then he does headstands on top of them, and handstands and stuff, and it's a single trap. And he saw my mom from up there when he was working in Venezuela, and he looked at her and pointed at her, and he was able to, when he came down, he pointed at her again, and then he said, "Let's talk." And my mom was like 14 years old.
How old was he?
He was like, 17?
That's not bad. That's not bad at all. No, not even by today's standards, not creepy.
No. And after the show, he went and spoke with her, and when he went down, she was with her mom and her sister and her brother and her other sister, and he said, I'd like to maybe go out for ice cream or something. And he said, sure. Which, in Venezuela, you always went with the whole chaperone thing.
Yeah.
So
whole family went along.
The whole family went along. That was kind of cute when he explained it to me how that happened. But the circus was there for a month. And during that month, he got to see her like every day with the chaperone. And when the circus left, he said, "I'm coming back next year, and I'm going to come back to marry you." And they all like laughed, and they said, "Well, yeah, sure." A year later goes by, and he knocked on the door. He goes, I'm here to do what I said I was going to do."
Wow.
And they ended up getting married, and she was 15. They got married. She was 15.
Wow.
And she had me when she was 16.
Holy cow.
And so...
Your dad would have been 19 then, I would assume.
Yeah.
Young parents.
Yeah, they were young. He had just got back from Africa performing in the circus. And he had to go to Cuba. So he says, we're moving to Cuba. So we packed up. I left when I was 2. Went to Cuba. And I lived in Cuba till I was about 6. And we fled Cuba. That's when the missile crisis and all that stuff was happening. And we fled Cuba and moved to Vancouver, Canada. And he was performing there in a show called The Cave. He was a circus performer, but his act was very nightclubish, like a nightclub act. And he was an opening act for celebrities, like stars and stuff. And so he sent for us from Cuba. Mm-hmm. First he went to Canada, then he sent for us. We joined him, and I remember leaving Cuba on the plane. I can still remember.
How old were you?
I was 6.
Okay.
And I remember the smell of coffee and jelly and toast on the plane. And we got there, and it was cold. It was freezing. In fact, it was winter. And we had just left Cuba,
that's not only a culture shock, a temperature shock.
It was horrible. My first word I learned in English was water, and I remember that. Learned how to say water. But anyway, that was in 1962, and we ended up. My dad got a job at the World's Fair there in Seattle when they built the Space Needle.
Yeah.
And so we moved to Queen Anne, Seattle. We came down into the States, and that was the best time of my life. It was so beautiful. 6 years old, went to kindergarten. I kissed my first girl. Well, she kissed me. I was cute. I was cute. She covered both of us up with her raincoat because it rains a lot in Seattle, and she kisses me, and I'm good. I'll never forget that. Her name was Mary, and she had a lot of snot. I remember she was always snotty. But those are memories that I cherish of my youth. But yeah. But
do you have any siblings?
I had one sister. She's a year younger than me.
Yeah.
So it was just us. The minute my mom came to Seattle, she went to beauty school. She started going to beauty school, so I grew up with the smell of perm solution in the kitchen and all that good stuff. And time went by. Because he was in show business, we traveled a lot. After the World's Fair got done, we ended up going to Chicago.
Yeah.
My dad was performing in Chicago, and from Chicago, the next place was New York. He performed in New York, and then we went south to Miami, of course. And he performed in Miami, and did a lot of traveling. Then we ended up going to Vegas. My dad was an opening act for Debbie Reynolds and Phil Harris and all these old timers during the Rat Pack years. Yeah. So he was an opening act. Next time you come, I'll show you some pictures. It's pretty interesting. But we went to Vegas. I hated Vegas. It was a desert. It looked like the moon. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing for kids. It was nothing for families. It was horrible. My mom hated it. And so he got a job in one of the casinos, and he had one day off. So he says, what we could do is just move to California. So we ended up moving to California, but my dad would still work in Vegas. And so he'd come on his day off and perform in Vegas and then go home, drive us a 3-hour drive. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in California.
Where in California?
In a place called Pico Rivera. And Pico Rivera is by Whittier, East Los Angeles.
Okay.
When we got there, it was all avocado groves, orange groves. I mean, it was just like farmland and stuff. And that time was just beautiful. Beautiful place to grow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
How old were you when you got to California?
I was 7.
Okay.
7.
Oh, wow. So you guys bounced around really quick between Chicago, New York, Miami.
Most of the contracts are for a month or 2 or 3 max. And then you end up there in Vegas. I couldn't stand Vegas. It was like a desert. It was like an oven, and sand and lizards and scorpions, and it's like, ugh. So I grew up in California, and 62, 63. Well, we moved to Hollywood. Before we bought a house, we ended up moving to Hollywood, so that was horrible. Sunset Strip. That's where we. It was interesting, but when I was 14, my dad got in a car accident, and going back, he ended up. No, I was 11. I was 11 years old, and the guy he used to go to Vegas with fell asleep at the wheel.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and ended up in a wheelchair for a paraplegic for
your dad.
My dad, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he was in the hospital for 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
In those days, they didn't give paraplegics a lot of time.
Yeah.
So they gave him like 5 years till they have 7 if he was lucky. And the funny part was that my mom took so good care of him that he lasted 47 years in a wheelchair. So it's crazy.
That's beautiful.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And during that time, when he was from I was 11 to 14, I was raised on the streets because my mom would never be home, and I would just be out in the streets with my friends. And LA was growing with the gangs, the Mexican gangs and stuff. And of course, you want to belong, so I became a gang member, Mexican gang. Yeah. And that was my life, gang member. And then when I turned 14, 15, it started getting dangerous because they were starting to. I lost like 3-4 friends to drive-by shootings and beatings, and one of my friends got smashed underneath a lowrider car. You know how they bounce up and down? Mm-hmm. They put him underneath and just killed him like that. And and he was my age. He was like 14, 15, and I said, I'm not even Mexican. What am I doing in a Mexican gang?
Yeah.
So it made me think twice about what I had to do. And not having a dad at home and a mom at home, I kind of raised myself, but I needed to figure out what to do and not end up like my friends. So my dad had left the hospital after 3 years. It was really rough, but he came home. And he used to sit me down at the edge of the bed and just talk to me for hours and tell him, before I leave this earth, I need to just instill a lot of wisdom into you. He goes, there's book smart, then there's street smart. And he would call it wisdom smart. And he goes, wisdom, there's more value to wisdom. And he wasn't a religious man or anything. He converted to Catholicism because my mom was Catholic and I grew up Catholic. And I remember praying when I heard my dad was in the hospital holding on for life. It was the first time that I looked up to the sky and I said, okay, I did my first Holy Communion, I've go to catechism, I say all these prayers, but I really don't know if you're real. So I had a conversation. Had a conversation with God. And I said, please, if you're real, please, I want to know you. I want to know that you're real. Mm-hmm. And if you can just not take my dad, I need my dad. Mm-hmm. And I just left it at that. I just really wanted to know who he was. And the Catholics don't really encourage Bible reading or anything like that, so I didn't know how to go. I would go talk to the priest, and he'd say, "Oh, just pray or this, and just be a good Catholic." And I'm going. I
left you with a hole.
Yeah. But when I was growing up, my dad would teach me how to do acrobatics like he did, and I'll show you a picture in a minute of me in Seattle doing some crazy stuff. So I knew how to do handstands, headstands, and he wanted to prepare me if I ever wanted to do an act and follow in his footsteps. Mm-hmm. And so I was really good at it, but I hated it because I would always practice. There's a lot of practice that goes along with that.
Yeah, I can imagine a lot of practice.
Yeah, a lot of practice, and I wanted to go play. So I hated it. But when it got serious, I said, I need to maybe consider doing that and doing an act. So I started having conversations with my dad. I said, Dad, what would it take? And then he started telling me, this is how you can do it. First of all, you got to do this and do that and perfect a handstand, then do one-arm handstand and stand on your head. And at that time, we used to visit circuses that would come into town and shows. And my dad, everybody knew my dad. My dad was pretty famous in his realm of performers because he worked in Vegas. He worked in Vegas with everybody, all the top people. And so we had a friend who had a son that had an act that was having some problems with his partner. And he goes, let's go talk to him. And I went to go visit him. And I remember visiting him. He was in a show called Disney on Parade. And when I went to go see him, he was driving this Eldorado Cadillac and this Airstream, beautiful 30-foot Airstream, and beautiful blonde by his side. And I'm going, I think show business is something that I'd want to do. So I had a conversation with him. I said, hey, if you ever need, I'm very interested. And he goes, really? He goes, well, I'm having a lot of issues with my partner. He was Iranian, and culturally they wouldn't mix. He goes, and if you're like half of what your dad was, he goes, that would be more than enough for us to be successful. I remember him saying that, and I'm going, wow, that was a big compliment to my dad. And so I said, I'm really serious. And then he came back like 3 months later, and I said, I'm really interested. I'm doing handstands, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he goes, okay, I'm really serious about maybe considering you. If you can do a handstand, a one-arm handstand, a headstand and stuff, and we'll do a little practicing and see what you can do. And I'll be back in 3 months. And when he came back in 3 months, we got together. I got on top of his head, and we did some headstands. And he goes, this is very doable. This is good. And my dad was talking to him. He goes, this is my son. I said, if you want him, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you the fact that I already know what you're thinking. But if you're thinking more than 50%, 50-50 partnership, it's not going to work out. So you either take him at 50-50. Well, I've got this and I got that, and I go, yeah, I know you do. But I got my son, and I know what my son is and what his potential is. So we got a handshake on 50-50, and he hurt his rotator cuff, and he says, I'm going to have some surgery on it, and when I get back, hopefully we can start working out and stuff.
Yeah.
He came back. We did my handstand. I had a perfect one-arm handstand, perfect headstand. So I said, okay, what's next? He goes, what's next is we moved to Dallas, Texas, and we put an act together. And that's going to entail 8 to 10 hours of rehearsing until we get it. And then I'll start booking the act, because I know that's what he did, the business part of the act. And we got together. I moved. It was really hard because first of all, because I was a gang member, there was 2 gangs after me, and I couldn't walk the streets. I had to jump houses and yards to get to high school, so I wouldn't
get shot
or mugged or something. At that time, I was in gymnastics, so I took advantage of the gymnastics thing, and I had UCLA came by with some scouts, and they saw me, and I was just a sophomore, and he goes, you've got a ton of potential. Have you ever considered a scholarship? And I didn't know what a scholarship was. When you're raised in LA, college isn't even a thought.
Yeah.
Those are for the white people. Yeah. People with a lot of money and stuff. College, I said, scholarship. Yeah, UCLA has a really good gymnastics team and stuff. So he goes, go talk to your counselor. So I did. And the counselor kind of smirked at me. And he goes, yeah. He goes, let's look at your paperwork here. And he goes, this is where you're at right now. I wasn't aware that I was at a 3rd grade level of education.
Wow.
I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to write. I was good at woodwork. I would, all the metalwork and, all the fun stuff. But he smirked at me. He goes, you're kind of like destined to be a laborer of some sort. I didn't even know what that word was. A laborer? Yeah, guys that, build houses and they do brickwork and cement work and stuff. I'm going, I don't think
not for you.
That's not what my dad raised me up to be.
Yeah. So
I said, so how do I raise my grades? And so he gave me this book and told me that I needed to do this. I started going to night school, extra after school stuff, and every time I'd go to these classes, these teachers didn't care about you. I wanted to learn how to read. I wanted to know how to.
Man,
it was horrible to try to elevate yourself with the school system there. So it came to the point where I had to make a decision to quit school and move to Dallas. And at that point, after trying and not being able to educate myself, and then my partner at the time, he had gone to college. He goes, dude, you can learn how to read. You can learn how to do math. You have calculators. And he goes, I'll help you with that. And you just got to know how to do it yourself. You don't need somebody trying to tell you how to do it. There's encyclopedias and things like that, and history. And I said, okay. So I remember getting ready to go to Dallas and leaving my parents. I thought it was going to be the last time I saw my dad. But I was, 16 at the time. I turned 16. And jumped in the car. And before I jumped in the car, my partner says, here, we're going to go buy a Time magazine. He goes, I want you to grab this Time magazine, and I want you to look at each page, and you're going to learn how to read a Time magazine. Yeah. I didn't understand those words. My diction, are you familiar with Cheech and Chong? Mm-hmm. That was me. That was my vocabulary. That was my diction of how I communicated. Yeah. Being in a gang, that's how you talk. Plus, I didn't talk a lot. I was very quiet. And so he goes, you take one sentence and just repeat it over and over. If you don't know what the word is, look it up in the dictionary. I didn't even know how to look up stuff in the dictionary. So he taught me. And I held on to that Time magazine for about 3 years until I started reading words and articulating and stuff. But I didn't learn how to articulate till much later in life, like 4, 5, 6 years later. I learned how to speak Italian, Japanese, Portuguese when I started traveling with the circus. Yeah. Before I learned English, but I got the bug to learn, and so I taught myself how to read and write.
That's awesome.
I'd write the alphabet and just write, cursive. But at 16, we were in Dallas. We got our first gig. We did this really crazy trick where my partner had a dagger in his mouth, a big old sword. I'm going to show you pictures. Put a mouthpiece, and you put the two daggers together, and then I would be on top, he would be at the bottom, and we would let go, and he'd balance me between two swords, and that was our climatic finale. But I also did a 1-finger stand. I did headstands on top of.
How in the hell would you do a 1-finger stand? Lord have mercy.
Very carefully. A lot of practice. It was a lot of practicing. So, but I'll have to show you the video so you can see what I'm talking about. That's crazy. I watch those videos now. I posted them on YouTube, and every time I watch it, my hands start sweating. I go, that was crazy. I can't believe I did that. Yeah. Sort of stuff. So, but we ended up going to Lima, Peru for our first gig. First gig was at Lima, Peru, and sorry, the noise.
Well, we'll explain to listeners. Okay. You're converting a salon into a cigar lounge, right? So that's pretty cool. And this thing will air the point at which you guys actually open up, so that way when people are coming through Franklin, they'll know they've got another place to stop by. Yeah, and definitely, that's going to be a big part of the Holy Smokes community here. Definitely. So I remember opening night in Lima, Peru. We sold the act without the act being finished, which was crazy. Mm-hmm. What I mean finished, we were balancing between two daggers, but we hadn't let go to the point of that. Yeah. And I was able to let go about a week before we actually opened. So I had confidence that I was going to do it if it killed me, literally. So we ended up, we were about 3 months in Lima, Peru, 3 months in Brazil. We ended up going to Mexico for a year. And then from Mexico, we ended up going to Europe with the Harlem Globetrotters. Performed with the Harlem Globetrotters the bicentennial year, 75, 76. Yeah.
We did the European tour, and then we did the U.S. tour. Mm-hmm. That was a trip. I worked with all the original guys, Curly Neal, Gisaldi, Middle Arc Lemon.
I loved Globetrotters when I was a kid.
It was great guys. Learned a lot from them. But my education came with traveling and meeting people, and that was my college, you might say. So my goal was Las Vegas, though, and finally, after a while, we're trying to get into Vegas, and we finally get an opportunity. And after the Globetrotter tour in 77, 78, we get a gig at the Tropicana Hotel, and we ended up signing a contract there. Contracts usually last 3 months. We ended up getting a 6-monther with another 6 month, and we ended up working there for 7 years. So it was pretty cool.
Did you like Vegas a little bit better than when you were a kid?
Well, I was trying to follow my dad's footsteps. He worked Vegas for many years. Yeah. And so that I had arrived. And for any act of any sort, Vegas is the ultimate. Yeah. But it's not about working Vegas, it's about staying in Vegas. And we were a household name in Vegas, and I mean, I'd walk around and people would recognize me, and I was kind of a little celebrity. Like Siegfried, remember Siegfried and Roy? Yeah. We were at that level.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. The only difference is they were marketed by the Ringling people, who are marketing geniuses, Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey. But we were big in our own right. We were the highest paid act that performed there for the longest time, which was nice. So.
Wow.
And at that time, I went to beauty school during a time where my partner, again, his rotator cuff was injured. And so I took that time. During that time, I ended up doing a lot of odd jobs, like washing semis, taxis, and power washing, and liquor stores, and gas stations. I said, I got to do something. So I ended up going to beauty school. I started doing haircuts when I was like 12 years old.
Is that something your mom taught you?
Something my mom taught me, yeah. I used to, well, the funny thing is I used to go to the barbershop with my neighbor when we were kids, like 9 years old, 10 years old. And I'd watch the barber cut hair, and then he'd get paid, and I'm going, I can do that. So I got several of my friends to, instead of going to the barber, they came to me. They'd give me $1 for the haircut, and I would go buy candy for 100 pieces of candy, penny candy. Then I'd go to school and sell them for 2 cents. So I started my entrepreneurship there, trying to sell, at a profit. It was great. So when I was in show business, I would cut hair in between shows. And when the girls started asking me if I can do Farrah Fawcett hairstyles and things like that, I went to school and learned how to do it. I got licensed in 76. It was something that I thought maybe one day I can fall back on, or at least it was always extra money. So let's see, that was, we're in 76, 77. When you're in show business, you're surrounded with women are like a dime a dozen. Mm-hmm. And I got sucked into that lifestyle of the being the
center of attention,
the womanizer, the always a nice girl by my side. And then I felt it was something empty there, and I felt God was blessing me, but at the same time, it wasn't what I was supposed to be. And I thought I had been all over the world. I lived in Italy for a year. We toured Italy for a year, and I've done a lot at a very young age. So I needed to decide what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And when I started working in Vegas, I said, I don't want to be one of these guys that gets sucked into gambling, drinking, doing drugs and stuff. A lot of people do that. And I couldn't afford it because what we did was very dangerous.
Yeah.
So I started wanting to read the Bible. Picked up a Bible, King James. I said, I don't understand anything I'm reading. And it took me forever. I'm dyslexic. I'm very badly dyslexic. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me. For me to read a book, I got to read the sentence 3 times, 4 times before I get it go on to the next one. And that's how people with dyslexia at that time. So I met a girl who gave me a Bible. It was the Living Bible. And I started listening to Dr. Walter Martin show, Bible Answer Man. And I started really getting into the Bible. And when I picked up the Living Bible called The Way, I couldn't put it down. And I fell in love with God.
Oh.
I mean, really fell in love with him. It was beautiful. I would read the Bible and I wanted to die just to go to be with him. But that was God. It wasn't, I hadn't gone, I started at the Old Testament, so I read a lot of stuff that just
didn't make sense.
Didn't make sense, but he made it make sense to me. And so then I started reading the New Testament, and then I was introduced to Jesus. It's like the light turned on.
And how old were you? I
was 21.
Okay.
Yeah, 21.
Wow.
So it was great. I got to Vegas, and I was going to a Catholic church at the time. I wanted to talk to the priest and ask him all these questions. And he ridiculed me and told me,
what?
He kind of kicked me out. He kicked me out of his office, yeah. He says, it's not for you to read the Bible, interpret. We go to seminary and we do this and we do that. And you just keep coming, you do your rosary and you do this. And yeah, it was just like, no, the Bible says right here. And every time I came up with scriptures to him, like, don't call no man father, you only have one father. And then the Mary thing, I grew up, praying to Mary, and it says right here, no. And
Jesus is our only intercessor.
Yeah, and then the perpetual virginity of Mary, no, she had other kids. And it would upset a lot of priests when I was trying to figure out what to believe. And I had to finally tell my mom that I left the Catholic faith, and it devastated her. And she goes, everything you're telling me, I believe everything you're saying, but you don't have to leave the church just because you don't believe in Mary or just because you don't want to say this. I said, Mom, I got this Bible right here. It's like the manual for life. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a hard time in my life when I had to tell my mom. But she still loved me. My mom, I'd walk in her room, she'd always be praying. Not the rosary, she'd always be praying. She goes, I pray for you every night for an hour or two. It's like, wow, okay. So I learned a lot from my mom about prayer. But I had gone to Japan. We were performing in Japan, and I met this friend of mine who we were both reading the Bible, and he was Catholic. And he became anti-Catholic, where I've never been anti-Catholic. I'm just anti-doctrine, Catholic doctrine. I mean, I went to Italy. When I went to South America, Catholicism was totally different in South America.
Really?
Yeah. And you'd go to Brazil, totally different. Even in Dallas, I mean, Catholicism in Dallas was different from the LA, my California Catholicism.
Yeah.
Then I went to Italy, and when I went to the Vatican and I really searched, it was like crazy. I mean, it's like, no, it's Catholicism, and I just didn't believe what the Roman Catholic was teaching. So it kind of really opened my mind to really getting to know Jesus more, and directly goes, here's the book. Let me just read that. Focus on the Family was huge for me. I grew up with that, and I listened to it every day. And the stuff, the speakers that they have on there and stuff, I learned so much. My friend that I went to Japan with, he says, there's this church called Calvary Chapel. Mm-hmm. We should start going there. And so I did, and that was the first time I heard the gospel being beautiful.
Which Calvary Chapel?
Las Vegas. The one in Las Vegas. It was next to a tattoo parlor, and it was awesome. It was awesome. They would read from the Bible, and and I fell in love with my church and what was being taught and everything. And at the time, I was dating this girl, and as I was dating her, I'm realizing that, wow, this is not what God wants me to do. And so I was battling with the fact that I was sleeping with her, and I said no. I stopped sleeping with her, and so she's wondering why, and I said, because it says right here, in order, must be born again. That was the first thing I heard. First time I heard, you got to be born again to be able to see the kingdom of God. And I tried to tell her, and she didn't want any part of it. So we broke up, and she went back home. She's from North Carolina. She went back home, and when she got back home, all her friends had converted to, strong Christians and stuff, and they were all going to church, and she's going, and so she called.
It's all around you.
Yeah, it was all around her, and I'm going, I didn't know what that born again thing, because she wanted to know where it says you have to be born again. And so she came back to Vegas, and I said, well, if you come back to Vegas, we're going to do it God's way. So she started going to Calvary Chapel with me, and I kind of put some feelers out there, fleeces. I said, Lord, if you want me to marry this girl, I just have her raise her hand today when they do an altar call, and that'll be a sign that you want me to marry her. The funny thing is, I wasn't really in love with her in the sense that I'd been with so many women and stuff. It was just kind of like, love was, to me, was kind of like, but when I go to the Bible, what love is totally different than what the world tells you what it is.
Yeah.
So we have an altar call, and she raises her hands, and I just like went, whoa, okay. So I proposed to her about 2 weeks later, and we got married. And I had to get married kind of quick because we had a gig to go to South Africa for a year. We had a year contract in South Africa, and so I went ahead and married her. And I left for South Africa about a month before she joined me.
Okay.
But I was married, and it was like, and I'd go into the Bible, how to be a husband, what to do, how to love your wife, unconditional love, and love is a choice, not a feeling. And I remember even on our wedding day, I prayed, Lord, I don't feel the love thing that I wanted to feel. I said, can you help me with that? I said, I know I'm supposed to love her, but I don't feel. And it was really weird because I prayed that the night before we got our wedding, and we ended up getting married at the Calvary Chapel. Well, Calvary Chapel pastor worked at the radio station, the KILA in Las Vegas, Christian radio. So we got married at the chapel there, and when she came down the aisle, when the doors opened and she came out, I fell in love with her like that.
Wow.
It was weird. It was like a tsunami. It's like, wow, this is God. And I gave credit to God for everything, because this wasn't me. I just wanted to be in the flow of the Spirit, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I said, "This is my wife, the wife of my youth," and it was awesome. She conceived our first son in South Africa.
She conceived without your help?
No, with my help. When we were in South Africa, she got pregnant there, and the scary part was when we came back. Found out she was pregnant. Found out that we were taking malaria pills, and we went to the doctor, and she was pregnant. And of course, he asked you, "Were you taking anything?" Yeah, we were taking these. We took the drugs there. And he goes, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but the chances of him being blind, deaf, mute,
are high.
Missing body parts is probably about 80 to 90%. He says, my suggestion is that you terminate the pregnancy and try again after you read your body from the... And when I heard that, and we got married, so we're talking about kids, and we were in South Africa. We started these Bible studies over there. There was this movement in South Africa of Christianity, just growing like crazy. We were part of that revolution. It was like that movie, the Calvary Chapel Revolution. It was a lot. I mean, this was a casino and a place where it was called Sun City. I don't know if you've heard of Sun City. It's a place in Botswana, south of Johannesburg, where the debauchery of, if you wanted to do anything, that's where you would go. Mm-hmm. And we were in the thick of that, and yet we had these Bible studies and all these people being born again and worshiping God, and it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah. So the evidence of the Holy Spirit and what God was doing in our lives was so thick. It was beautiful. So we had talked about abortion, and that it's a lie, because definitely, we would not get an abortion. So when the time came and the doctor said that, first thing that went, I'll go, oh yeah, let's start all over. And then all of a sudden, I thought about it for about 3 seconds. Then I said, wait a minute, no, I'm going to love this child no matter what. So for the whole 9 months.
Did the way in which your mom loved your dad and helped him through all of his paraplegic struggles really kind of solidify that, yeah, it's going to be hard, but we can do it?
Now you're going to make me cry. Yeah, the best example that I have in my whole life was the love that my mom had for my dad, and vice versa, but more my mom. My dad was hard to live with, but my mom was just, oh my gosh, to put up with that guy for 47 years. They were married for 60, so wow. It was just crazy.
Holy cow.
Not 60, 50 years. Yeah, 53 years they were married. But they gave me a great example of what love was. Unconditional, and no matter what. So, and that's my upbringing, and that's what I brought to the table with my wife. The only difference is it didn't work. That was my commitment, but it wasn't hers. Yeah. So it just kind of my mom is like my hero. She was my hero to endure what she did. But the fruits were there. You shall know them by their fruits. And the fruits that they produced with my sister, my nieces, my great-nieces, my great-great-nieces, nephews, they're all there from her. Mm-hmm. She's like, if you had a chance to meet my family on my sister's side, oh my gosh. Heaven. Just heaven. Heaven on earth.
So you decide you're going to keep the baby.
We keep the baby. The baby's born. And he's okay. Sometimes I wonder, but...
Don't all parents.
He just turned 40 last week. And I kind of say, well... I don't want to say he's woke, but he's woke. I raised them in the church, and I raised them as Christians and stuff, but they moved to LA, and now they don't. They're kind of like, they think they're smarter than. Yeah, all I can do is pray for them, and I can't talk politics with them because it turns into. You don't want to talk politics with me. I'm
opinionated.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram. Mm-hmm. I'm an 8, and I'm not gonna be. I'm an 8. I'm a nice 8. And my daughter too. I mean, they were strong Christians at one point, and all of a sudden they moved there, and they think they've been enlightened. So I've got 3 kids, and they're great kids. Great kids. They're all creatives. They're all creative artists. One's a photographer, videographer. My daughter's an influencer. She's married to one of the top choreographers in California. And my son's a music producer. He's writing right now with Pitbull. And he writes with all sorts of these big guys. But anyway, yeah, so I just kind of wonder. And I just, all I can do is pray.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Lord just will open their eyes. So
you get back, you have your first son. Were you still performing at this point?
I was still performing. And I knew that it was, I got into show business to do it for 10 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. I did it for 20.
Yeah.
So for 20 years, I was a performer. And the last 3 years of my performance, I also was a salon owner. I opened up a hair salon.
Where at?
In Las Vegas.
Okay.
Right next to the Palms Hotel.
Okay.
On Flamingo Boulevard. And I was a celebrity there, so it helped me market myself. And because I traveled all over the world, if I was in Italy, I would go to the top salons in Italy and attach myself to the best hairstylists and talk to them and invite them to the show, and they were impressed with me. And yeah, I learned, I was able to utilize my show business stuff to be able to connect with top hairstylists.
Yeah.
Even in the States. And they wanted me, when I retired, they wanted me to become stage, celebrity stylist. And I'm going, what for? It's like,
yeah.
I've already been there, done that. I don't need to do that. But I opened up a salon, and then I had another child. And then my wife, she was consumed by the 3 kids. And she's an incredible mom. But we just kind of grew apart. I didn't grow apart. She just stopped and didn't want to be married anymore. But she kept telling me when our baby would turn 18 that she would leave me. And eventually she did that. So that was the roughest time of my life. When my whole life, my whole world fell apart.
How'd the kids handle that?
Not too good. Not too good. I listening to Focus on the Family a lot. It's funny because when I found out she had an affair on me, when I found that out, the first person I called I went on the Focus on the Family hotline, and they helped me get through some stuff. But I didn't need to go to Focus on the Family. I need to just get down on my knees and just keep getting close to Him. And that was hard. I was very mad at the Lord. That all came down when I was on a mission trip. I started doing, Promise Keepers was a big part of my life too. I would get groups. I would usually take 2-3 buses. There were 40, 80, get men to Promise Keepers. I was a big advocate for them. I was at the mall when they had the million. And so...
I was working at Focus at the time in satellite operations, and I was in charge of the satellite uplink.
You're kidding. Wow.
Yeah, for that. So I was watching it on TV listening to it, making sure that the feed was good. And
yeah.
I was pretty new. I was pretty new at Focus at the time.
Wow. So I retired from show business. And so I've got this unhappy wife. She hated Las Vegas and wanted to move anywhere. Bought some property up in Oregon. Bend, Oregon. Beautiful.
Yeah, Bend's awesome.
In the summer, in the spring. And then the winter hits, and it was just way too cold. I sold my property. I said, I can't live here. So there was an opportunity that came up to move to Colorado Springs. And I love Colorado, especially Colorado Springs. I had a friend that lived there, and I said, I can live here. This is just beautiful. And I was close to Focus on the Family, and I had an opportunity to open up an institutional pharmacy, get into the world of pharmaceuticals, which was presented to me by a neighbor of mine in Vegas who owned a postal office. And he goes, I'm looking for a guy. He took me out to dinner. He goes, I'm looking for someone to help me open up an institutional pharmacy. What's that entail? He goes, well, not much. I got scammed.
Not much.
I got scammed. Yeah, he presented this beautiful thing that I can move to Colorado Springs because that was my desire to just get out of Vegas and maybe I'll have a happy wife. And I went ahead and signed the lease right there in Colorado Springs. Forgot the neighborhood. And opened up a institutional pharmacy. I got licensed by the FDA and hired a pharmacist to be able to fill out prescriptions. And then I hired a marketing person to find beds. You have to have beds. Mm-hmm. Well, in the pharmaceutical world, there's tiers of pricing. The lowest pricing is a pharmaceutical, institutional pharmacy. Mm-hmm. Example, inhaler. That was supposed to be my first order. If you order an inhaler, it cost me $4.50 for me. So an inhaler that is wholesale sells for $47, depending on who you're wholesaling it to. Hospitals, they sell for $75 each one. Retail, they sell for $110 retail, and then they bill the insurance for $200 something. So this guy, what he wanted me to do is order, $10, $15, $20, $50,000 worth of inhalers at $4 and give him my surplus. Surplus was basically a form of diversion of being able to buy it at this with my licensing, and he would buy them at a discounted. I would buy them for $4, and he'd buy them off me for $10. Mm-hmm. So I've already made a huge profit. Yeah, just with one order of that, and like C-Pro and all these drugs and stuff. I used to get them for like literally 10 cents. And he wanted. I said used to get them. I never placed the order. Mm-hmm. I was ready to place the order until I was in Las Vegas, and I got visited by these guys dressed in black with glasses, like FBI or CIA, or I don't know what they were, but they came into my salon. They were scary looking. They said, "Can we talk to you? We go to Starbucks and have a conversation." I said, "Sure." So I sat down, ordered a latte. "What can I do for you guys?" And he goes, "Well, they pulled out all these files and stuff. Your name is Ulysses Reyes. You were born in Caracas, Venezuela. Your dad is this, and your kids go to this school. And then, these are their grades." I mean, they knew my whole life story. And you're also talking to this other guy who is kind of talked you into opening up an institutional pharmacy. Do you know what that is? I said, well, 1,000% no. I think I understand it, but it's an opportunity for me to get out of. He goes, yeah, that's what he does. He gets. You know what a scapegoat is? And I said, yeah. He goes, that's what he tries to do, is try to find people to order surplus for him, so he can make the money, because he can buy it legally, but you can't sell it legally because that's diversion. Mm-hmm. He goes, it's not really a diversion. It's a dirty word in the pharmaceutical market, drug dealing. But he says, you'll go to jail. He goes, and everything you've, you're
built.
Everything you've built. This is your whole life right here. And you got a nice house. You've been living there, this and that, and this. You got a salon. You got investments. He goes, all that will all disappear if you go through with this. And I went. I was like blown away, and I said, okay. So
were they in the process of tightening the ring around him to bust him? And they warned you preemptively, or? Yeah,
they said, we've been following this guy for 3 years, and we can't get him because institutional pharmacies are closed-door pharmacies. You can't. Nobody knocks on my door. You can't go in there. You can't prove. They can't prove the actual transactions or anything.
Yeah.
None of that can be proven.
Yeah.
He goes, we have to catch him in the act, and he goes, you were a performer. You have a great reputation here. He goes, you don't want to do this. Everything you've built up, you don't want to do this. Mm-hmm. I said, no, I don't. So I went home and I had to tell my wife that, because she was all excited because she was finally going to leave Las Vegas and finally sell the salon. Now, this guy had bought 7 McDonald's, about 8 Blockbusters. I mean, he was...
So he was taking the money and then diverting it into other businesses.
Other investments, yeah. He had Taco Bells, he had Burger Kings, he had a lot of money. Lived, where's that nice neighborhood in Denver? Really nice, like Bel Air type area. But he had a lot of money. I didn't,
Cherry Creek.
Yeah.
Cherry Creek.
Yeah, that's where he lived.
It's a very nice neighborhood.
And he had this huge house, and I didn't know that. These guys showed me pictures of it and everything. He goes, so we know this guy. He goes, he's
bad news.
Bad hombre.
Yeah.
So it was another devastating thing that because my wife, for the first time ever, she started being happy that she was going to leave Vegas and move to Colorado Springs. Mm-hmm. And then when that fell through, that was kind of like she didn't love me anymore. So it's like, oh man. But that was interesting. But to be able to, it was like when I had to make a decision, do I abort my son or not? That took me 3 seconds to say no. And then this one took me a couple of minutes. I go, what if I just put in one order? Because one order was going to about $300,000 for one order.
Yeah.
So, but it cost me about $80,000 because I built all this out and had to give my pharmacist a severance pay and stuff, and I said goodbye to Colorado Springs. It was sad. So, but
did they have you work as like an informant to actually get him in the act, or what?
No.
What did they already had what they needed?
They had everything. They said, we got an eye on him. He goes, there's nothing you can do to. No, I wouldn't have gotten involved with that too much. It's like, whoa, it's way over my head.
Yeah.
So
things fall through. You lose some money. What happens?
My whole thing was I was just trying to make my wife happy. And I've learned in life that you can't make people happy.
They have to be happy themselves.
Yeah.
Has to be inside of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. During this time, I went to Cuba. I took my parents to Cuba.
Yeah.
For the first time in I don't know how many years. I was able to take my dad and my mom. And I remember landing. Well, the plane almost went down. And so we had to take another plane, and then we had to take a bus from the beach place to Havana.
Yeah.
But everywhere we stopped, the bus stations and stuff, there was these cigar rollers, these people rolling cigars. And I'm going, what's this thing with cigars, Cuban cigars? Why cigars? And I got intrigued and saw how much cigars, even in Cuba, a Cuban cigar there was like $25, $30 for Cuban cigars in Cuba.
Yeah.
I'm going, why are they so expensive? I said, for one cigar, it's like crazy. It was in the 90s. And I came back to the States, and right next door to my salon, there was a Mr. Bill's tobacco shop.
In Vegas?
In Vegas. And they had a humidor in there. And I'm going to go, I said, I'm going to buy a cigar and see what's the big deal about cigars. I had gone to Hemingway's house in Cuba. And so I was intrigued with his story. And so there was this little Arturo Fuentes Hemingway signature reserve cigars that I started smoking, and I really got hooked on them. I had to smoke one a day, and I'm going, wow. And then I bought a book and started charting the different types of cigars and why I wanted to become a aficionado of some sort.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with the cigar thing, and later in life, we ended up getting a divorce. I don't want to get into that, but my life fell apart with the divorce and stuff. And before the divorce, I had been doing a lot of mission work with. Do you know the story of Calvary Chapel with Tonga?
No. Tonga?
Tonga is the friendly. They call it the Friendly Islands. You know where Tonga is? Mm-hmm. The international date line's right there, and the Mormons try to take over Tonga and make it a Mormon nation, like they did in Polynesian islands with in Hawaii and stuff. But Chuck Smith and Luis Palau and all those guys, they found out that we're trying to do that, including what's the guy, the one that did the movie Revolution, the movie.
Chuck Smith?
What's that?
Chuck Smith?
No. Chuck Smith was the actor, but the one that's telling.
Oh, Kelsey Grammer?
No. He does the Harvest Crusades.
Craig Laurie. Yeah.
Craig Laurie too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They found out that they had a plan to convert that into so they gave everybody radios, the Mormons. Mm-hmm. Everybody they shipped radios in like crazy, and they were going to build a radio station. Mm-hmm. Well, Chuck Smith found out about it, and so they had half the church they hand carried an antenna. Everybody went in with pieces of antenna, and they erected an antenna, a radio station antenna, and they put it up and started broadcasting the gospel and the Bible Answer Man about Mormonism and all that stuff. And so they went and they had a meet. They met with the king there, the king of Tonga, and they converted him. He became a Christian, gave his life to Christ, and became born again. And at that point, he made it illegal for these Mormons to go around with bicycles and stuff. They weren't allowed to preach the Mormon. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. And then the radio, when they started broadcasting the radio, it just kind of sealed it. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool. Well, we went back to tear down that antenna and move it to another location because the whole place was sinking because you can't dig more than 5 feet without touching water in the islands over there. So that kind of changed my whole life. That trip right there, it made me understand what being still was, because I thought mission work was about doing, and then I learned that it's about being, which was kind of really cool. So that's another long story, but it was awesome. So I had been doing a lot of mission work in Mexico, Tonga. I said I'd never go to India. I went to India. It was awesome. But once I got the divorce, I was so mad at God, I stopped everything. And that part of my life was so big that I needed to get back into mission work. When I found out that I needed to forgive my wife, when I truly forgave her through help of my pastor and my coach and the Bible, and I was able to forgive her, and when that happened, this veil just lifted, and I knew I needed to get back into doing mission work. So I started going to Nicaragua, and that's where the coffee and tobacco passion started coming in. So I went to Nicaragua, and I felt at home there because it was the Latin culture, and I wanted to know, how do I get involved? You know, what do I do? I got to get involved with this Nicaragua thing. Well, I got invited to go back a month after I went to Nicaragua to go do a quinceañera for 11 girls that they were looking for dads to stand in the gap to be able to do these quinceañeras for these girls. And I was issued a girl. I was appointed a girl. And it was a ceremony. We had to go. I went because I was a hairstylist. I went and I did all their hair and their makeup, and we made them feel like princesses. And the ceremony, it's pretty involved.
That's beautiful.
You have a father-daughter dance, and it's like a wedding. Father-daughter dance, and you hand them a Bible, you hand them a crucifix and jewelry, and you take their flats off and you put high heels on, and after that you pray over them. And when you pray over them, you pray as though she was your daughter. And boy, that prayer just kind of sealed the deal. It was a covenant. I'm big on covenant. So she made me promise her that I would never forget her.
Yeah.
And that I would not be just like firework that just explodes and everything's nice and then never see me again. And I promised her I wouldn't be. So it was my anchor for me to stay going to Nicaragua. I put her through college. She's a graphic artist now. And I'm very proud of her. I put her through English speaking school, and I've been trying to bring her here. She hasn't been able to get a visa here, so I got more involved there, and someone told me I should open up a beauty school there. So I did. That was kind of crazy. When I found out that girls prostitute themselves for $2, wow. And I said, I saw some horrible stuff, what they do, these girls, in the middle of the streets, in the middle of the park and stuff. It's just like these young girls, 15, 16-year-olds, and they do it for $2. And I said, what do you guys pay for a haircut? And they said, $2. I said, if I was able to teach you how to become a hairstylist, and you can charge $2 for a haircut instead of $2 for a service, an old man that's discussing, would that be something? And they said, yeah. And then I said, okay. So I went back home, and I couldn't sleep at night. I kept seeing these young girls getting raped. I was almost like nightmares of these girls being abused. So I got up and I said, Lord, this is you. You're keeping me up. I've experienced you enough to know I think you want me to do this. I said, all I can do is just go. I'm going to go. Here I am. Send me. I'm going to go. I'm going to approach like a mission. I'm going to go, and I'm not with no agenda, no plan, no nothing. I'm going to show up. I'm going to stay at a mission house, and then I'm going to just pray, and then you're going to lead me based on who I meet. And I did that. It was crazy because I got there. I met a person that took me to another person that took me to another person, and within 2 days, I had all the information I needed to open up a beauty school. Because I know how to run a hair salon in the States, but in a third world country, that was just kind of crazy. But I was able to get a lot of information. Long story short, I opened up this beauty school in a community center. They gave me, we tore it down, the whole community center. We rebuilt it, and when they rebuilt it, they gave me a little spot for a beauty school. And then I needed it to be bigger, so I made it bigger, and I got yelled at, but I created this beautiful beauty school, and I graduated like 17 girls after a year, and it was working. I was able to get these girls a profession, and parents would cry that I pulled them out of prostitution and stuff. It was just it was beautiful. I just didn't want to teach them hair. I wanted I was able to get a government approved curriculum for a beauty school, and their diploma is an actual, like if they went to college. So it's a beautiful thing. But the socialist country is, right now I'm having issues with them right now because they just froze my bank account because I didn't pull out the money when I said I was going to pull it out to pay somebody that I couldn't pay them because they didn't do the job. But because they didn't do the job, it threw a red flag. And so the red flag, they freeze your accounts. They're hyper vigilant and red flagging me. So anyway, during the time there, I was looking for a coffee and then tobacco. and I found a place that they rolled tobacco. And every time I started taking groups, mission groups, I'd go about 4 times a year, 5 times a year, sometimes 6 times a year, every 2 months. And I would take these groups down there, and one of those days I'd spend it at a cigar bar, a factory, and that was my sanctuary, I would call it. And I learned a lot about tobacco and rolling and where it came from and all that other stuff. But I didn't know how to like, how do I get cigars for myself? And one of the guys kind of showed me and taught me, but he wasn't business wise. He wasn't very sharp. So I lost a lot of money with investing in him, unfortunately. But another guy, and so we've been able to bring at least about 30,000 cigars across. But I'm still learning. Consistency is hard. That's why the big ones, the big guys, the big players like Perdomo and their focus is consistency. So, and then you learn about aging the tobacco and rolling it and how it's done. And all that good stuff. So meanwhile, I got a hair salon here
in Franklin.
I opened this up.
How'd you get here?
Trying to save my marriage and get out of Vegas. I said, if I'm going to be divorced, I'd rather be divorced in Tennessee than in Las Vegas. I approached, like I did the beauty school in Nicaragua, I approached Nashville the same way. I said, Lord, I'm going to go to Nashville. I'm going to go as though it was a mission trip. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to show up. And my sister-in-law lives here. So I stayed at her house, and she goes, what are you doing here? I said, I'm just seeking God. So I'm just going to rent a car and just drive and seek God. What are you going to do? I said, I don't know. Pray. And so I rented a car and I started looking at what housing was here and properties and this and that. And I had bought a piece of property in Las Vegas for $25,000 that I bought 5 acres. I found out that Disney was going to open up Disney Studios on Blue Diamond Road. And so I jumped on that, and I had my dad buy 5 acres also, $25,000. $25,000 turned into $2.5 million.
Whoa.
And it happened while I was here.
Yeah.
Looking at property. I got an offer for 1.8. 2 days later, I got another offer from somebody else for $2 million. Then I'm going, God, okay, you're talking to me now. This is very doable. I can move here if that occurs.
Yeah.
And between my dad and I, we both sold ours for $5 million.
Whoa.
So it was kind of cool.
Whoa.
$25,000, dude.
Yeah.
So I sold at the peak of the market in Vegas, right up there. That's when I sold it.
Yeah.
And I came here and I bought 19 commercial properties with a 1031 exchange.
Yeah.
So this was my 3rd purchase. This house.
Yeah.
Paid $750 for it. My last offer was $3 million. This was kind of cool. So I opened up a hair salon. I was divorced, and that's all I knew how to do. So I had to go back to work. When you get $2.5 million, no debt, everything free and clear. I bought 19 properties, free and clear. I can collect rent, a lot of rent from 19 properties. But at that point, my wife filed for divorce, and she wanted half of everything, and everything just fell apart. But I bought this. I opened up a salon. I thought I was going to open up a distributorship first, because my wife hated the hair industry. You don't make a lot of money in the hair industry, in the salon. I'm not a businessman. I didn't go to business school. I learned from all my, just work hard and you'll do well. But I've been blessed enough to know when to buy, when to sell, and how to negotiate some stuff. And I opened up the salon, and I was in Aveda salon. Aveda is a high-end line, and I'd been with the Aveda network for like 20 years. So I went another 20 years with him. So I did well here. Was doing really good, but I felt myself aging and dealing with the young girls and the different generations. It's like I need to do something else. And I decided to just close the salon down and maybe rent stations. That's all I know how to do. Maybe just do hair, a little bit of hair, and not have to deal with employees. And then I got visited by a guy who wanted to rent my building out to put a cigar bar. And he was trying to do a cigar bar here at the bank. He says, no, but nobody wants to have smoke in their buildings. No, landlords don't want smoke. I don't blame them. And then I said, no, I've got girls. They're renting stations here. So that was on a Monday. On I think a Thursday, our friend Kay comes in. He goes, hey, would you be interested in renting out your thing? He's been wanting to open up a cigar bar.
Yeah.
And I said, Kay, I know who you are. I mean, it was kind of really cool to meet the guy. I've been part of Holy Smokes for a long time.
Yeah.
I didn't know who this guy was, and he introduces himself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're Kay. So he goes, would you be interested in doing that? I said, I'd be interested, but I go, rent here is expensive. He goes, how much? I go, well, you're looking at about $9,000 a month. He goes, oh no, that's too much. He goes, that's too rich for me. It's like, he goes, but it's a great place. If there's any way to do it, you should do it. Then I got another guy come in, and he wanted to. The three guys in 2 weeks. 3 guys came up to me and wanted to open up a cigar bar here, and it wasn't even for lease. It was just guys coming in, and I'm talking to my guys, and like he was telling you, the guys, my Holy Smokes group, we usually have it at his house, and he goes, we should just do our own. And all my guys are like well-to-do guys, super well-to-do. He goes, how hard can it be to hire somebody? He goes, we're all business. One guy he was a big CEO of Enterprise Rent-A-Car and stuff. They're all business guys, so it's just basic business, inventory, employees and numbers and stuff. And I go, I don't know how hard it is, but I don't know. Well, let's pray about it. Then we meet the missions guys, and they were looking for a second location. And when we met them, they were so aligned spiritually, in their goal and everything. So we struck up a deal to open it up with them, 50-50 partners. So the deal, it's a beautiful deal. We do the turnkey build out, and that big old unit out there, it takes all the air out, puts it out in fresh air every 15 minutes, every 12 minutes, every 8 minutes. You adjust it. Yeah. So you got fresh smelling, like your wife wouldn't have ever smelled tobacco on you. Yeah. Which is kind of crazy. It's a $200,000 unit. So we said, we all agreed on doing it the right way. So we're putting a $500,000 investment into it, and then they're going to do the rest, and they're going to run it. So, and then we're just going to make it the best cigar bar in all of Tennessee. So
it's a cool little location. I mean,
this is another thing I negotiate. This is God. This is all God, because I still do hair. Yeah. I call this the upper room. Yeah. So I'm keeping the upper room. I said, here's the deal. I'm going to give you less rent, because I know I could rent this for like $10,000 a month. I said, I'm going to go $8,500 a month, but I keep the upstairs. And I can make the difference with this room, that room, and then renting a couple of chairs. And they said, okay. And we're going to split the office, and he can have all the storage in there in the office. And it's 7 of us, and we're all so motivated to get this thing going. We're gonna explode it. So it's pretty cool.
And you're looking at opening in
April,
early April, if possible.
First, if we can get a CO by April 1st, that's our goal. Yeah. We sat on this. We just started construction about 4 weeks ago. Yeah. but we sat on it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Or 7. It's ridiculous. And just try to get a permit.
Yeah.
Here in Franklin. So, and I knew that because it took me a year to get this thing open for a hair salon.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we get 1.7 million tourists a year here in Franklin, downtown Franklin. Mm-hmm. So we can get a little piece of the market.
You're right
there.
next to downtown.
I know we are in town.
Yeah, technically downtown, but I mean,
yeah. You saw the circle there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right down the street, they're opening up an amphitheater, concerts and stuff. It's
really?
Gonna be multi-million, probably $1 billion project there.
Yeah.
It's crazy the stuff, the growth and being from Vegas, I know what growth is.
Yeah.
I saw Vegas grow from nothing to Vegas.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And what's the name of the place going to be?
The Mission Cigar Social.
Is it going to be open for the public or members only?
No. We thought about it, and the public, it needs to be open to everybody.
Yeah.
We'll have lockers here. You can be a locker holder for. It's $2,000 a year, which isn't too bad, but you get 15% off your purchases, and probably do half off haircuts and half off 50% off haircut and massage and
yeah.
And then I'm going to I want to do podcasts in this little room here.
I know a guy that can help. And I'm sure you know guys locally as well.
Yeah. But I thought podcasts, to be able to have a missions podcast where you get to know, you get a lot of regulars.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to, how do I, I'll send you the podcast that I did.
Yeah.
Maybe you can, my pastor, well, he's my coach now. He stopped being a pastor. My coach has a podcast called The Thrivalist.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Yeah.
Thrivalist. Yeah.
He goes from surviving to thriving. So he's an executive coach. But the guy who edited his podcast, the one I did with him, his name's Jonas. You should, next time you come, maybe you can meet him.
Yeah.
Nicest guy. He says, dude, I took 3 of those out, but I didn't have to do any editing. And the thing is, I usually don't listen to a whole podcast, the first, all at once. But I couldn't stop listening to yours. So I'm going, you're kidding. And it was like 5 months before I even listened to my own podcast. And I'm going, oh my gosh, that was so good. So it was kind of like, but it's interesting. I'll send it to you. You might want to listen to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I started dating this girl. So life's good right now. I got my kids. I've mended everything with my ex-wife's a very good friend now. We're really close. We got grandchildren.
Yeah.
I got grandchildren, 4 of them, and they're awesome. And I met this special lady. She's going to be moving from Corona, California to Franklin eventually. Yeah.
My late wife, her dad lives just north of Corona in Eastvale. And so I'm very familiar with...
Wow. Okay. Riverside, all that.
Oh, yeah.
Norco. And
yep. Norco.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What did she do?
What's that?
What did she do?
Elizabeth was mainly a stay-at-home mom.
Stay-at-home.
She worked retail when we were dating, and stayed at home, and then did some helped out a friend with his business for a while, and then at the end she was working for a friend of hers, an attorney, and was doing office stuff. Where she'd do work mostly from home, and then a couple times a week head up to Castle Rock and go work in that office. Yeah. And so
Castle Rock.
Yeah.
I love Colorado.
It's pretty epic. You got to come out for the Conclave. It's the annual get-together where we have... It basically runs from officially Friday through Sunday. And we hit up home lounges along the Front Range. So Friday night is usually... Sometimes it's often at Paul Felidis' place in downtown Colorado Springs. Saturday morning is usually at Wayne Green's in Castle Rock. Then Saturday during the day is often at Alan McKinnon's place in Larkspur, which is just south. He's got this nice home lounge and a nice patio out area, all cigars. And then Saturday night is usually someplace, and then Sunday morning is usually at Derek Fulmer's in Monument, which is just north of Colorado Springs.
I know.
And Matt Hurd gives...
that's where I opened the Monument in my pharmacy.
For the institutional pharmacy. Yeah. And then Saturday morning, it's usually at Derek's place in Monument, and Matt Hurd gives a Sunday morning message. We take communion together, and it's cigars all weekend long.
Is it just men or?
It's everyone.
Women.
Bring your girlfriend.
Yeah, she'd love to go. She's all excited about this new world she's entering. So my one of my goals here, because I mean, as a hairstylist, I work with women.
Yeah.
For the past 47 years.
Yeah.
And these guys, it's all men. Dude, the women. There's a lot of women that love the cigar culture, and so I really pushed the wine thing. I said I want to put wine, bourbon, and beer, or something like that. But I want to really focus on good wines, and so
nice.
Get the women in here, and I tell there's nothing sexier than to see a woman hold a cigar. I don't know why. It's just hold it, and I think it's sexy.
Yeah.
So, I've thought about it. It's a good place to meet. It's these single women. It's a good place to meet a really good guy. Most of us cigar guys are good guys. Mm-hmm. So,
Uli Reyes.
Yes.
Let's get to rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire. Fire here.
Usually the first question I ask in rapid fire is, how's that stick treating you? You started one, and then you opened, then you pulled out this other one. You were like, I want to do something better, and you never lit it, and so you just been talking.
This is 30.
So what is it that you had planned to smoke?
This is the 30, the Perdomo 30 anniversary.
Yeah,
it's really good. It's really, really good. So,
when did you first try cigars or pipe? Was it in Cuba?
No, actually, no. It's when I got back from Cuba.
Yeah. Okay. So when you got back from Cuba.
And my short story, the Hemingway, Arturo Fuente Hemingway Reserve. I'll have one of those every 2-3 months just for. But I'll tell you, I like Nicaraguan tobacco better now that
I do too.
Now that I understand like the Jalapa blend. I love the tobacco in Jalapa up north. As opposed to the Esteli one, which is out of clay. You learn about the clay and the sandy soils and the volcanic. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting.
You ever smoke pipe?
Yeah, I did. Just anything that smells good and anything that tastes good.
Nice.
But pipes. I like pipes. It just takes too long. I've gotten used to the cigar now. It's just
What's your favorite cigar?
My favorite cigar is the one that I'm generally smoking.
I've got a friend of mine. What's your favorite cigar? The one I'm smoking right now.
Yeah, it's you know what? There's so many. Because I'm looking for the perfect cigar, and what's that one? The one I just had the other day. Gosh, there's so many. One of my favorite right now. If I had a choice of if you ask me, I'm going to buy you a cigar. Which one would you like? I would. My go-to would be the 50 anniversary Padron. It's a $50 cigar, but it's delicious. It's delicious, and it burns perfect, and it's so consistent.
Yeah.
That would probably be my favorite. I'm actually trying to duplicate that right now in Nicaragua.
Nice.
So,
what's your favorite liquid pairing with your smoke?
Honestly, I like rum. Tennessee's everybody does bourbon, but a good rum.
Yeah.
I enjoy rum much more than I do, and I like a port wine. I like the sweet.
Yeah.
And some Grand. If I can get 200-year-old or 100-year-old Grand Marnier is amazing. Just a little sweetness.
Grand Marnier is pretty special.
Yeah. the 100-year is amazing. Also a nice cup of coffee. Yeah, the black coffee, no sugar.
Who's the most interesting person you've ever met through cigars?
Through cigars? Oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh, there's a gentleman that looked like Santa Claus. I met him at Papa P's. I think you're one of the most interesting guys I've ever met.
Harold Maxwell?
Yeah.
Max, I love that dude.
You know him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Max is a special human being.
I said, dude, seriously. I said, I've fallen in love with you just talking to you. I go, you've got to be one of the most interesting guys I've ever had a cigar with.
So if you go back to the Holy Smokes podcast feed, I interviewed him a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And just an amazing story.
We're supposed to get together. I bought a farm here, and he's supposed to come over and just smoke around the fire. And yeah, I look forward to that.
Max is awesome. Oh, a special human being. Love you, Max.
Yeah, I love you, Max.
Most memorable cigar experience?
Oh, gosh. My limit has been like 7, 8 cigars. I did 9 my last trip to Nicaragua because I'm looking for a nice house cigar. Mm-hmm. And the way I was smoking them is like, it's really hard to find. In fact, so to be able to have one here and one here, I'm talking quality cigars. Yeah. And be able to do this, take a little sip of whatever, and then that, and figure out, a two-fisting. A double fisting the cigars is, I really enjoyed that in Nicaragua with the rum and 6 other guys doing the same thing and talking about how amazing the cigars were.
What kinds of music do you love?
God, I love all sorts of music. My preference would be some Cuban jazz.
Ooh.
I mean, to sit down and have a cigar and listen to Cuban jazz, like what's that, those guys from Buena Vista Social Club music is amazing. The piano, that's just, I appreciate. My son's a music producer, and he described to me what Cuban piano was and why it's so special. And it really spoke to me.
Favorite food?
Oh gosh, I'm a foodie. I love Indian food. Of course, Mexican, but I just love all sorts of food, dude. Yeah.
Dogs, cats, neither, or both?
I'm a dog guy. I've got an Italian Spinoni doodle. I was blessed to have a Spinoni dog in Las Vegas, and they're Italian. They're bird dogs, but they shed like crazy and they spit. And when they drink water, they stick their whole face in. And I couldn't have another one, but I found out that they bred them with a doodle, with a poodle, and so that's what I have now, an Italian Spinoni doodle. She's a sweetheart.
What are 3 things you're thankful for at this point in your life?
I'm thankful for, without being generic, gosh, my life I've been so blessed with, again, at 20-something, I was ready to die. I said, okay, I've done it all. I've experienced so much. I've been blessed by people and around me and stuff, relationships. And then I realized that I was only 20-something years old. And so just living life, I wish I had another 100 years to live because I'm enjoying life so much right now. Even my relationship with my new girlfriend that I bought her for Valentine's Day. I'm going to give it to her.
Engagement ring.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's
congratulations.
Pretty, and it's funny because now I feel I've never felt so ready to take on a partner. I went crazy there for a while, just trying to, what do I want? What do I need? And I went back to what my mom told me, son, you need to find someone who's just crazy about you. Like I am crazy about your dad, that I'll put up with anything within reason.
Yeah.
And then not be codependent. But codependency is something that my culture, my Latin culture, if you're not codependent, that means you're not loving, which is kind of, but there's a misinterpretation of what that is.
Yeah.
Because I was so codependent with my first wife that I suffocated her, and it was terrible. But now I feel very, very blessed.
That's
to
awesome.
be able to spend the rest of my life. I'm 67 years old, so life just happened fast, and I'm going, wow. I wish. One of the most interesting guys I've met was George Burns.
Really?
You know who George was?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I met him at a state fair, and I saw him from across the stage. I was on stage right, and he was on stage left, and I looked across, and there was a bunch of dancers on stage and stuff, and I look, and I do this, and then I go, I do this, and then I see him doing this. He starts doing and I'm looking behind me, and he starts looking behind him, and he started like mocking me, right? And I started laughing. I do this, and he does exactly what I'm doing. He points at me, and after it was all dress rehearsal. So I walk across the stage, and I walk towards him, and I'm going, Mr. Burns, I can't tell you how much you've meant to me.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid. I admire you. I admire your life. I said, what is your secret? And he had a cigar right here in his
pocket.
And he goes, this right here, they never let you down. They keep you from stressing, and they give you a long life. And he lasted to be 100 years old, that guy.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most interesting conversations I had with someone who smokes cigars. That they're worth every penny, and you can't sit down and have a fast cigar. You gotta have this. And this is what I do. This is what I want to do the rest of my life. Opening this up, and even you'll get the same thing from Greg and all the other guys. It's just, well, even Kay. I mean, it's about the relationship with other men, and just going deep, spiritually, emotionally, and being able. How can I help you? How can they help you? Or me? And it's just the best conversations I've had have been around a group of guys that are smoking cigars.
If you could be any animal, what would you be?
Wow. What an animal. I think I'd be a gorilla. I like that silverback. Just
That's funny. If you could live anywhere, where would you live?
Ever since I left my home, I thought California was the best place to live, and it was at one point. And I've spent my whole life traveling and knowing where I would want to live. And I think I'm living exactly where I dreamed to be living, which is here.
That's beautiful.
Second would be Italy. I love Italy.
It's special. It's very
Italy
special.
is special, but it depends on what, the food, yeah. But the government, the politics is such unfortunate. I mean, look at Nicaragua. I love Nicaragua. I almost bought beachfront property in Nicaragua. But the government takes it all away from you. I mean, it's just the politics. You got to know your politics. So,
what's your greatest strength and what's your greatest weakness?
it's funny. I was thinking about that the other day. One of my greatest strengths, I believe, is patience. My mom, she taught me I saw that in her with my dad. And patience comes with forgiveness, and made me reading scriptures and stuff like that, and how when you love someone, love is patient. It starts there. And then it follows kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's been the greatest influence in your life?
My mom. You always want to see Jesus in people who influence you.
Is she gone? She sounded like a special lady.
Oh, yeah. If my sister was here, and my nieces, all of them, my nephews, they'd totally agree with me. And they would all say simultaneously, they called her Nini. So
Yeah.
her name was Eva, but she was the Nini. She was just like, oh my God, was she special? It was crazy how special she was.
Who's the first person you think of when you hear the word successful? Success means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
So for you, when you hear that word successful, who's the first person you think of?
My number one goal is to have peace in my life, and when I see someone that has peace within themselves, I evaluate you by monitoring your peace. I mean, politicians. I mean, I'm seeing this in Trump for the first time. He's got this. He knows, when you know what you're doing and you have purpose and all that good stuff, that all fits in. But you got to have peace about it, and that's anyone in particular. There's so many people. There's so many people. Max.
How do you want to be remembered?
I think I've achieved that. I mean, if you talk to if you're able to meet my 7 guys, my Holy Smokes guys, they'll tell you who I am. And who I am is exactly how I want to be remembered. And someone who loves people, someone who's giving, someone who's generous, someone who loves hard, and someone who cries hard. Yeah, I got a heart. I got a big heart. It's gotten me in trouble, and sometimes I try not to follow my heart. It's gotten me in trouble, but yeah.
All right, last 3 questions. What does Holy Smokes mean to you, and how has it contributed to your spiritual journey?
Well, I joined the Holy Smokes group, how long ago? At least 10 years ago. 10, 12 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was special. When I first moved to Tennessee, I didn't have any friends. I mean, I left Vegas, all my connections and everything. I had really good friends that I've gone on mission trips and stuff like that. But in Tennessee, I didn't have anybody. And as I said, and one of my concerns, I said, who would be my pallbearers? What does that mean? And little by little, going to men's groups and things like that. But when the cigars started happening, it's a different level. You could go to 20 men's groups, church groups, men's conferences and stuff like that, Promise Keepers. But when you sit down with a guy with a cigar, it's a game changer. It's hard to explain. It is a game changer. I don't even know how to explain it. But spirituality, yeah, it's God. I feel His presence. I did a study called Experiencing God, Blackaby.
Yep.
God's always working. It's just a matter of joining Him, right? And when I see God working, I just jump. I want to join. And that's what usually sparks my tears when I see God working. I'll be on a mission trip and just start crying. But are you okay? I go, yeah. It's a joy that God's here. And I'm able to be part of it. Everybody wants to be part of something, right? Everybody wants purpose. Everybody wants to be seen. And when that purpose, seen, loved, and everything is God, you got it all. And everything behind that it's just dessert.
If you could have a holy smoke with any 3 people throughout history, living or deceased, who would they be? Can't name Jesus.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis?
Everybody says Spurgeon because what he said, smoke this to the glory of God. Yeah. But I don't know too much about Spurgeon. Most of my guys do.
Yeah.
I'm more of a C.S. Lewis guy, but 3? Oh my gosh. Definitely George Burns.
I was going to say that's when you brought up the George Burns story. I'm like, oh my gosh,
no,
I mean, he grew for me growing up in the late 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
I just remember him with cigars, and I was like, and just his winsomeness.
Yeah,
it was really endearing, and so George Burns. He'd be in my second tier of people.
Yeah, he would be definitely. And gosh, cigars. The next guy that I meet, basically, I look forward to meeting the next
new people.
Guy.
Nice.
Because that's why I want to get the podcast thing going here. I met a guy, David. I don't know if he might introduce you to him. He wants to start a nonprofit to help Gold Star families that have lost their husbands, moms in the military. And I'll tell you, I knew him. I said, hi, how are you? And smoking cigars until I sat down with him. And we were just like, wow. Yeah, it's just that new guy. It's it. The guy that's God brought you together for a reason to tell each other stories, It's pretty cool.
All right. Final question. We're to meet 1 year from today, and I got a bottle of your favorite rum. What are we celebrating?
Life. The life we're living today. Yeah. And hopefully a bunch of profits that are going to come with this. We're missions. We have donations. We donate to 3 missions, 3 nonprofits. One of them is mine. So, and that's another big thing for me. That my thing with the cigars, I would import these cigars and I would give you a bundle for a donation. Yeah. So donate. Nice. And you get cigars. So I want to continue doing that.
Nice.
But I want great cigars. So I don't know. Maybe I should send you. I've got some being made right now.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be equivalent to a Padron 50.
Yeah.
The only difference is it's not going to cost you $50. I want to get a Padron 50 for $9.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I'm looking for, a good quality cigar.
Yeah.
That everybody can buy and just go crazy over.
Uli Reyes, thanks for being on.
Oh, dude. Steve.
This was so good. And one more time, the name of this lounge is Mission.
The Mission.
The Mission.
Cigar Social.
The Mission Cigar Social. What's the address here in Franklin?
121 3rd Avenue North.
Franklinton. I look forward to my next trip out here.
Oh, gosh.
Sitting out on your deck that you kind of painted the picture of what it's going to look like under the trees. And
oh, gosh.
Having a cigar with you.
We have to. We're going to put the new deck out there, but we can't put the roof on it till we're open and everything.
Yeah.
That's phase 2 because they're going to hold us. If we put a permit for it right now, they'll hold us out.
Yeah.
And we need to start smoking.
I look forward to it. Thanks, my man. Thanks for being on.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Hey everyone, I wanted to announce that we have Holy Smokes gear. That's right, we have swag. We currently have hats, shirts, stickers like for your vehicle or your travel humidor, magnets, even branded bourbon glasses for a limited time. Go to holysmokes.club and click on the shop tab. That's holysmokes.club. I'm super proud of the shirts. They're made with Bella canvas shirts that are soft and incredibly comfortable. The hats fit wonderfully, which can be a problem for those of us with big noggins. We plan on having a lot more to offer, like Guayabera shirts, additional t-shirt designs, beanies, polos, hoodies, cigar accessories, and much more. Check it out. And even if you don't make a purchase now, be sure to sign up for that email list, as I've thrown a couple big discount coupon codes for those exclusively on that list. So click the shop tab at holysmokes.club. Thanks.